Hi, I'm Richard. I will be discussing with you some of the difficulties associated in caring for a loved one with an eating disorder and how you can develop techniques and skills that can help. If what you're doing already works, then stick with it. If not, why not try something new? We hope that some of the information here will be useful. It's a natural human response to care for someone who is sick and to somewhat spoil them. For short-term viral illnesses, this helps recovery. However, for emotional problems, the reverse can be true. Do you feel bullied by the individual with an eating disorder about when and how you eat? Are you feeling bullied about when and how you can use the kitchen and or bathroom? Perhaps you're controlled by the eating disorder about what, when and how you shop. Or about when and how mealtimes are arranged, or portions, or ingredients. Perhaps you're covering up the negative consequences, clearing up mess, dealing with bathroom problems, buying more food, cooking a meal that you know is nutritionally inadequate. Maybe you're turning a blind eye to antisocial behavior such as hoarding, stealing, or addictions. Perhaps you've been giving constant reassurance and have been sucked into obsessional rituals or compulsive concerns, repeatedly responding to, "Will I get fat by eating this?" It can feel like walking on eggshells, and by submitting to the control of the eating disorder minx, the anorexia or bulimia nervosa bullying is rewarded and strengthened. It is gratifying to have people obeying your commands. And by ignoring or covering up unpleasant aspects of the eating disorder, we may inadvertently prevent them learning about negative consequences, and so we miss the chance to work on and encourage change in the individual. The problem with providing reassurance on tap or finding ways of avoiding anxiety for them is that you prevent them developing effective emotional regulation. You become their shield against the world. An individual with an eating disorder will become dependent on their carer to feel safe, make decisions on their behalf, but also resent being so trapped and dependent. So, what kind of carer do you think you might be? The jellyfish? Too much emotion and too little control? Some carers may be unable to regulate their own intense emotional responses to the eating disorder. The distress and anger is transparent to all. In this sea of emotion, it is hard to steer a clear path. Overt anger and anxiety can exert an unexpected poisonous sting and gives the opportunity for the same emotions to be mirrored in the individual with an eating disorder. Unfortunately, this serves to strengthen the eating disorder hold. The downside is that these sad and mad emotions escalate, causing tears, tempers, sleepless nights, and exhaustion for all involved. The ostrich. Avoidance of emotion and no control. The ostrich finds it hard to cope with the volcanic situation which often arises when trying to tackle the difficult problem of an eating disorder. The ostrich literally prefers to put the head down into the sand. This is something they know they can do, avoiding what seems too hard. Living with someone who role models avoiding their emotions gives the message that emotions are frightening, and using food to feel numb is a solution. The dolphin. Just enough caring and control. An optimal way of helping someone with an eating disorder is to gently nudge them along. Imagine your loved one is at sea. The eating disorder identity is their life vest. She or he is unwilling to give up the safety of this life vest while living in the frozen wasteland of an eating disorder. You are the dolphin, nudging them to safety, at times swimming ahead, leading the way, showing them new vistas, at other times swimming alongside with encouragement, or even quietly swimming behind, trusting them to learn to swim. The kangaroo, trying to make everything right, does everything to protect their loved one by taking over all aspects of their life. They treat the sufferer with kid gloves, letting them jump into the kangaroo pouch in an effort to avoid any upset or stress. The downside of this type of caring is the individual can fail to learn how to approach and master life's challenges. They find that they only feel safe living in this limbo land, suspended in a childlike role, unable to visualize taking on the world of adulthood. The rhinoceros uses force to win the day. Fueled by stress, exhaustion, and frustration, the rhino carer attempts to persuade and convince by argument and confrontation. The downside is that even if an individual does obey, they fail to develop the confidence to do the right thing without assistance or instruction. In fact, the more likely response to a rhino behaviour is to argue back with a strong eating disorder voice. When feeling under attack, it is common to raise defences or retaliate. The more and longer you argue for change, the more it gives the individual with the eating disorder the opportunity to argue for no change. This allows eating disorders to consolidate and embed themselves more deeply. The more we say something, the more we believe it. The terrier uses persistence, often criticism. The terrier persistently criticises, cajoles, nags and tries to wear out the eating disorder minx. The downside of this terrier-type behaviour is that either individuals tune out to what they perceive as white noise, or it serves to sap morale so that they lose the inner resource and motivation to face life without an eating disorder identity. Eating disorders themselves are rather like a terrier, constantly criticising the person, saying he or she is not good enough, needs to try harder. Terrier-type carers lead to a got-at-from-all-sides feeling for the individual, resulting in increased stress levels and defences being put up. The St. Bernard. Just enough compassion and consistency. Another optimal caring response is one of calmness, warmth and compassion. This involves accepting and processing the pain resulting from what is lost through an eating disorder, and then developing reserves of kindness, gentleness and love. St. Bernards instill hope in an individual that they can change, that there is a future full of possibility beyond the eating disorder. St. Bernard responds consistently. You are unfailing, reliable and dependable in all circumstances. You have a good antennae attuned to the welfare and safety of those who are lost. Calm, warm and nurturing. Animal metaphors can help to explain how these instinctive reactions can be unhelpful. Sometimes many different animal behaviours will be displayed all at once as carers desperately attempt to remedy the situation. Each animal analogy may be your default way of coping with stress or part of your natural temperament, for example, overprotective, logical, overtly emotional or avoidant. Although not necessarily negative traits, in this circumstance they are unsupportive for recovery. In order to change these responses, you may have to challenge yourself and experiment with trying out new responses which don't feel natural or spontaneous. Don't worry if you don't succeed at first. Try and remember to keep looking at the bigger picture. Everything is practice. Identifying and understanding your behaviours which currently reinforce the eating disorder is the first step. The second is to learn the skills and communication techniques necessary to develop a collaborative caring approach, i.e. adopting dolphin and St. Bernard type behaviours. The skills are derived from an approach called motivational interviewing, a framework which has been welcomed by eating disorder therapists, as it has given carers a framework for working with their patients rather than against them. And don't be put off by the names. These techniques have been backed up by several research studies, and although this type of communicating may feel alien and forced to begin with, the skills such as reflecting listening and open questioning have been proven to be very effective. People learn new skills in many different ways. This DVD uses implicit learning. The actors in the videos will demonstrate many examples, and I will highlight the communication techniques or mistakes. If you prefer to learn through reading text and definitions, then you can find the Collaborative Care Techniques document under Advanced Learning. What so many carers are looking for is for their loved ones to change or move on from their eating disorder. Changing any behaviour is usually not a simple switch between two options. Today I usually do this, but tomorrow I'm going to change completely and do this instead. There are usually many steps in between, depending upon our circumstances, the environment, other people's demands, what we see as the pros and cons of changing, and whether we feel confident that we can accomplish change. You can be an effective mentor in supporting change, and it can be helpful to discuss this with your loved one. Under the Advanced Learning section, there is more information on how to approach these discussions to accomplish the best results. This DVD uses videos of some typical eating disorder scenarios to illustrate how carers, parents, siblings, friends and other family members can support change. We have two alternative videos. We first show some of the everyday ways in which things go wrong and end up leading to unhelpful emotional reactions such as anger and despair. This can mean that the focus on recovery from the eating disorder gets derailed, the core issues are avoided, and the eating disorder wins. The Incorporating Change videos use the theory and skills described in collaborative care. These skills can improve communication and allow a joint approach towards recovery. The videos are rich in detail and there are things to be learned on many levels. And we recommend that you watch the scenarios several times in order to learn and establish the skills. This is particularly relevant with the Incorporating Change scenarios. It's highly unlikely that after the first viewing you'll be a master of the new skills. Research has shown that continued practice with booster sessions to reflect on the process with others, that's needed to help keep the skills strong. And remember, be kind to yourselves and do not fall into the trap of expecting too much too soon. Included in the DVD packet is a handout. It suggests some questions to keep in mind whilst you're watching the videos. Proactive learning, trying to spot the mistakes or skills that the carers in the videos are demonstrating before I highlight them, has been proven to significantly improve memory and learning ability. We have further suggestions in the advanced learning and hints and tips sections as to how to use and get the best out of these videos. If this is the first time you've encountered this approach, then you may be interested in finding out more, as well as learning about many other aspects such as the causes of eating disorders. You can read more about this in Professor Janet's book, Caring for a Loved One with an Eating Disorder. There are also some PDFs available on this DVD or on the website.